Okay, let's start with our new lesson. So our second lesson is about Earth and its subsystems. So we know in our lesson 1, we have learned about the characteristics of Earth that makes it as a suitable planet for life. So many of these characteristics result from the Earth's distance from the sun. So Earth is a home of varied life forms which interact continuously with the non-living components. So for our lesson this morning, so the objectives. So you as learners will explain that the Earth consists of 4 subsystems across whose boundaries matter and energy flow. So if you're going to look at look this one in your MELCs or your MELCs, this is the competency S11ES 1B-4. So at the end of the lesson, the learners will be able to, so you as learners will, number 1, define the concept of a system. So after this lesson, we are going to define what a system is. 2, recognize the Earth as a system composed of subsystems. 3, explain the interaction among its subsystems whose boundaries, matter, and energy flow. And lastly, enumerate ways in preserving Earth system. So before we start, I want you to have a copy of your lesson 2 from your LMS. So please open on page 12 in the getting started part. And then let's answer this activity entitled The System Matters. So for the directions, you have to supply the crossword puzzle on the right with the correct answer using the clues. So use separate sheet for your answer. So I will pause the video for a while so that you can answer the said activity. And then you can check it by looking at the answer key right after after the said module. Okay, so I will be pausing the video now. So once you're done, you can play this again. Okay, let's proceed. So Earth is essentially a system. But what do we mean by the word system? Okay, I know you have heard the term way back in maybe in your biology, you have the different body systems. But the system, especially in your topic in thermodynamics, you will know that this system is different from the system that we have in our biology. So what is a system anyway? What type of system does Earth belong? Okay, take a wild guess. Actually, the Earth is essentially a closed system. So why? So again, if we're going to recall, a closed system is a system in which there is an exchange only of heat or energy and no exchange of matter. Okay? So the Earth receives energy from the sun and returns some of this energy to space. So Earth, the sun gives energy to the Earth, and the Earth in return will give those energy back in so many forms. Okay, transformation of energy. But the sun will not get any matter from the Earth. Diba? Wala naman yata ang kukunin ang sun from the Earth itself. So let's proceed. So energy, there are 2 types of energy source that we have here on Earth. We have the external source, which is the sun, And then we have the internal sources for which are radioactive decay and gravitational energy. So we are going to have a different discussion about these two here. Okay, so in our lesson 1, we made mention of the different cycles. Okay, especially when we talk about um, Goldilocks and the three planets. So one of the cycles there that was mentioned is carbon cycle. Okay, so what is a cycle? So material in the Earth system is continually recycled in numerous overlapping cycles. So when we mean to say cycle, there is no beginning and there is no end. So it can start in any part. Okay, like for example, the one example is water cycle. Okay, so it can start from evaporation, ending in precipitation, or it can also start with precipitation and then maybe it can end in evaporation. So it's a cycle. Actually, there's no beginning and there's no end. So the different cycles that we have, number one is carbon cycle. So here we can see that there's an exchange, or this is a series of processes by which carbon compounds are interconverted in the environment, involving the incorporation of carbon dioxide into living tissue by photosynthesis, and its return to the atmosphere through respiration, the decay of dead organisms, and the burning of fossil fuels. So you can see here the exchange of carbon. So carbon is transformed, okay, from one form to another. Okay, so next we have water cycle. So the cycle of processes by which water circulates between the Earth's oceans, atmosphere, and land, involving precipitation as rain and snow, drainage in streams and rivers, and return to the atmosphere by evaporation and transportation, I mean. So you will see here the different interconnected uh, parts that make up a whole, diba? That's what we define system. So here we have the different um, subsystems that are interconnecting. So later we will see those different systems. But uh, to show here in our water cycle, we have the atmosphere and, okay, the water, which is actually it comprises our hydrosphere. So next we have rock cycle. So here you can see that this is an idealized cycle of processes undergone by rocks in Earth's crust, involving igneous intrusion, uplift, erosion, transportation, deposition, a sedimentary rock, metamorphism, and further melting, and igneous intrusions. So all these processes here that are mentioned will have an in-depth discussion about this one when we discuss the different processes like exogenic and endogenic processes. So we will understand how one uh, process leads to another and what is formed also.